Blanching is a great way to cook hard vegetables that would otherwise take forever to cook, or you cook them in a frying pan and they cook unevenly. You know, some parts stay raw and some parts are starting to burn, and they're just hard to cook. So what we're going to do is we're going to par cook them, which is essentially pre-cooking them, and we call it blanching. And the process of blanching is you take your vegetable, or you can actually blanch lots of different things. You put it in boiling hot water for 30 to 60 seconds, depending on the food that you're cooking, and then you immediately put them in ice water. Now this is actual ice water, like this is cold water with ice in it, because we immediately want to stop the cooking as soon as we put the vegetables in there. So blanching is a great method for cooking like broccoli, which is what we're going to use today, carrots, lots of hard vegetables that take a really long time. You know, cauliflower is another one. You know, the ones that sit in the pan and then you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and they're still cooking, and you wait, and then like 45 minutes later, maybe they're kind of tender. It's really frustrating. Blanching works best when you take your vegetables and you cut them down into relatively bite-sized pieces. So these are broccoli florets. So we had the big head of broccoli. We cut them down into like pretty manageable sizes. So you'll see like some of these are actually, like this would have been a really big floret, so we cut it in half. So now it's a little bit more manageable, something you can easily fit in your mouth. The reason we do this is if you put big pieces of vegetable, it actually takes a lot of time for the boiling water to penetrate the inside. So slightly smaller pieces work a lot better. One really important factor that you need to keep in mind when blanching your vegetables, or pretty much anything, is you need to salt the water. So I've got a pot of boiling water right here. I'm going to stand back so I don't get a facial. Well, maybe I need one. And this water has not been salted. So what we're going to do, first I'm going to turn it up so it comes back to a boil. Oh, there it goes. So there is, you know, probably like 3 pints of water in this bowl. And what we're going to do is take, you know, probably like a good teaspoon of water and add it, and another good teaspoon of, another teaspoon of salt and add it. Now you don't want to add salt until it's already at a hard rolling boil. Whew, it's really steamy. Because salt actually changes the boiling temperature of water. Like it changes, I mean, there's actually a whole scientific explanation that's kind of like beyond the scope of this video. But if you add salt before the water comes to a boil, it'll actually lower the boiling temperature of water. It can actually mess with how things cook because it's not quite at 212 degrees. Of course, this all changes if you're at a high altitude. So if you're at a high altitude, email me and we'll talk about it. So we've got our salted water, and now what we're going to do is we're going to add our broccoli very carefully because this is very hot water. We're actually going to turn up the temperature a little bit because the broccoli is cold. We don't want to add the cold broccoli to the hot water and have it like immediately decrease the temperature of the water. So we're going to add all this broccoli safely and slowly so we don't burn ourselves. And now the broccoli is in the boiling water. And you can see immediately it's already changed color. Look at that. That's already bright green. We're going to give this about 30 seconds. We want to make sure they're all submerged, right? So kind of anybody that's like floating up towards the top, kind of push them under. And the most important part of these is actually this part, the stem, right? This is the part that takes the longest to cook. It's actually very fortunate with broccoli because they happen to float flower side up. And since the flowers are actually the most fragile part, they actually are in like the coolest part of the boiling water, and it works in your favor. The part that needs to cook the most, the stem, stays pointing downwards, which is great because that actually needs to cook more. So they've been here for about, I don't know, 20 seconds. I'm gonna give them another stir, make sure they're doing good. You can see they're super bright green, right? You never want them to like start to change any other color but this bright green. If they start to go from this bright green to like a gray, you've overcooked them. Like you need to like take them out immediately. But you never want them to go gray. This is the green color, this is the goal. I'm gonna give them another minute. Sorry, not another minute, another few seconds. And give them another good toss. And I think they're about done. And so I like to pull out the little ones first, because those are the ones that'll cook the fastest. And that, like the extra few seconds it takes to pull out the little ones, the big ones keep cooking. Mirror. Ta-da! What do we got? Alrighty. And we're gonna start pulling them all out. There we go. And so the cool thing about blanched veggies, is you can eat them right away. Like I could just sprinkle these with salt, a little bit of salt because the water is already salted. And like salting the water ahead of time is great because it actually gets a little bit of salt inside the vegetable. It's also in the water so they don't get soggy. And you can eat them immediately just like this. They're great just like this, but we're actually gonna add one more step and we're gonna saute them. But before we do that, I want to show you how soft these are, which is not very soft. So we're gonna turn this off and we're gonna give these guys a good stir. So the ice water immediately stops the cooking of the vegetables. And so we're going to pull one guy out and we're gonna put it on a little plate, shake it off. And I'm gonna grab a fork so I can show you how much we've cooked it. So we can fork it. See, it's just perfectly forkable. It's still crisp, but it's just a little bit cooked. It's cooked, maybe halfway. And so what's gonna happen is when we saute this, it's gonna brown beautifully, but because it's already halfway cooked, we're not gonna have to saute it to the ends of the earth just to make sure it's completely cooked.